Okay, so you probably can see my screen. Um, okay, yeah. So this part about the explanations, this was totally okay. Okay, there was like over here you said that you are aware that the content is a lot, but this is actually what they expect you to write. Okay, so when they ask you, when they specifically mention a specific like over here they specifically mentioned explanations of phobia. If it's like a more holistic thing that measures and stuff like that, then it's okay. But then when they say explanations, then you gotta get into detail. Only thing that where this the parts which will actually get you marks is the newer concept. So over here, when you talk about the behavioral explanation, the fact that you wrote the behavioral explanation, that is something that's going to give them the clue that okay, you know about it. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing is when you talk about unconditioned stimulus. Now this is all about the conceptual details. This is what you're going to get marks on. Okay, now when you even this detail, now they're just going to look at all three sorts of detail. The first one is that are you aware as to what is happening? Like is it cognitive, is it behavioral, is it physiological? So that is one thing which you have mentioned over here. So that is ideal. Okay, then the second thing they're going to see is if your concept is correct. So when you talk about classical conditioning, okay, you've not mentioned that, but you've mentioned the branches of it. You've talked about unconditioned stimulus, neutral stimulus. So all of that is the second hint that you've given them conceptual details. Okay, and then the third one is research details. So when you talk about just little Albert, that tells them okay, the research details as well. So that is your point four answer, like a level four answer. That's totally perfect answer. So over here as well, you've mentioned psychoanalytic. Okay, so that again, you've mentioned the researcher, you've mentioned the year. Okay, that will get you your first mark where you are aware as to what you're telling. Then you've given over here, you've given us your research detail as well. Okay, and when you talk about anxiety and when you talk about impulses of the id, now that is your conceptual detail. There you go, your level 4 points. So all of this was fine. When you say that it's time consuming, I understand that. So when it's time consuming, you can cut out a little bit of research details, but your conceptual details and your research details, just they gotta tally with each other. Your concept should be clear. You're telling them that okay, this is what it is about. Okay, because each study is about a particular thing. Each treatment is about them using a certain thing. So all of that matters. Okay, over here, like the biological, and you've said genetic. Now that is your awareness. Okay, your awareness point, this is important. All these things, and so you were just going to follow the pattern where you talk about your what are you aware of what it is. Okay, your awareness point, and then you go ahead and you talk about the conceptual detail, more about the concepts, and then you go ahead and you talk about the research details. If you want to summarize it, you maybe cut down on the research details just a tad. Okay, but other than that, you maybe just don't get into the sample or something. But it's, I would say this is still an ideal question answer, sorry, in the sense that I would say that it's better to write because none of this is garbage. Okay, if you're writing trash, then okay, it matters. But right now this is a very summarized, nicely coherent answer, so this doesn't have any problems. When you talk about here, so you said uh, I wasn't sure what you were so 10 markers, I feel like this is lacking some sense, but I'm unable to exactly pinpoint it. How is it lacking some sense? First of all, the first thing where they say you've chosen determinism only. Okay, so when they say explanations of phobia including a discussion of determinism, so all the explanations need to be evaluated on the basis of determinism. So be it your behavioral explanation, your biomedical explanation, your psychoanalytic explanation, or what was the last one, the cognitive explanation, all of them need to be highlighted. And they have to be just they have to be evaluated on the basis of determinism, because that is your base point. Okay, that is your named issue. That is what it's called named issue. So your named issue is something that you will use for the basis of your answer, where you evaluate each explanation, each treatment, each argument on the basis of that named issue. So when you are talking about determinism, you're going to pick out each of these explanations, and each of some of them have like two explanations for behavioral. Then in that case, you can just use one of them. you can say the behavioral explanations by this and that. Okay, so if it's just revolving around one particular awareness point, then it's okay. Like if there's two behavioral explanations, then yes, you can use one of the research and maybe not mention the other one. It's better to mention it, of course, but it's okay. But over here, we all the four approaches are on different things. The first one is on behavioral, the second one is the psychoanalytic theory, the third one is biological, and the fourth one is cognitive. So you will use all four, you will evaluate them on the basis of your named issue. Is that clear?
Yeah, but actually, because I wasn't sure for psychoanalytic, I did not know what to mention over there.
Okay. Okay, so basically, when we talk about psychoanalytic, they are telling us that it is about the impulses of the id, that you repress the id. Okay, and when you just repress it, it actually gets out of control. Okay, so we can say that it is mostly talking about a conceptual thing. Okay, it's talking about the theory of that Freud had actually indulged in. It is not giving us any other point of views. It is not telling us about it's telling it is rather more deterministic than telling us that we have the free will in order to it is mostly basically there's what Freud said was that there are three parts of the brain. Okay, there's the ego, there's the id, and there's one other. Wait, let me just it's,
And then the
so
superego.
yeah, there you go, sorry, the super ego. So he basically said that there are basically you have these stages of your personality, right? So when he's mostly focusing on the stages of personality, so you can say that he is not giving enough regard to how a person actually functions in their daily life as well. He's not giving, you can use another debate. You can say that he is talking more about natural characteristics rather than nurture characteristics. Okay, or he's talking more about nurture characteristics rather than natural characteristics. So you can mold it into that sense. So you can just say it is deterministic because that would mostly be like reductionist, but generally saying that was a general point of view. But you can say it was deterministic because he is not even focusing on the cognition that lies behind it. Okay, the cognition that lies behind personality building, he is just focusing on a conceptual theory that he represented. So and you can say that there was no explanation as to how the other two parts of your personality matter. How does the ego matter, how does the super ego matter? You can mention all of that. So I know psychoanalytic is only confusing because it's a rather difficult thing to understand, but that's how you will phrase it. And so um, yeah, okay, so you over here you have mentioned classical conditioning, that's one of them. Then you've mentioned biomedical. When you talk about cognition, then you can say this study was actually very deterministic in two ways. Okay, it was deterministic because they first thing because they were only focusing on cognitions. Okay, they weren't focusing on maybe behavioral explanations. Okay, maybe how and the second way was that they didn't even consider the fact when they talked about fearful and non-fearful. So they said that in both those cases, if even if you have if you even if you've had like you would still expect a scary encounter with a dog, even if you're fearful or non-fearful. That was like some sort of a conclusion for them, right? So you can say that even that is deterministic. Okay, because what if your sample is so small that it doesn't include the people who wouldn't be like that. So you have determined your results on the basis of a very small sample. So that's something you can mention in this scenario.
But I thought that cognitive would fall towards the free will theory.
Okay, so if you thought that, then you mentioned that. That's what I'm saying. Like if it's walking towards the free will theory, then it's not deterministic, right? So you don't always have to present it to be deterministic. You can say it is not deterministic, but you just have
Okay.
to, yeah, on the basis of determinism, you have to tell whether it is deterministic or not. So actually when you look at it, all four explanations are deterministic, because all of them had very less choice. It was like very limited choice to all of them. It was just
Mm.
two conditions. It's either fearful, it's either non-fearful, it's either this or that. So all of them were deterministic. But if you have with psychology evaluation, there's no right and wrong until and unless you can't prove a point. So if you can prove something to be right, then that's it. Only focusing on evaluation, nothing else. So if you say that it's more towards free will and you explain that pointer as to how, and it makes a valid point, then that is correct too. Okay, it doesn't have to be wrong. Then the other parts are totally okay. Okay, when you talk about, I would just say that, I'm going to send you a sample answer that's going to help you. But when you, let's say, like, if you're talking about reliability, so if you've used just the first study to evaluate this, because it says evaluate the explanations of phobias. So if you're using reliability, try and fit reliability in as many explanations as you can. So if you can say that this both the psychoanalytic and Watson and Rayner wasn't reliable because of the sample, sorry, wasn't, let's say, wasn't replicable or whatever, so if you're mentioning that, just make sure that you mention it with as many studies as it implements to. So if you say it can also implement to the last study over here, so it can implement with the Nardo study as well, so you have to mention that too. So if you are choosing a pointer, so you just have to see that all the things that it would implement with, so all the things you could apply it to, and then mention all of those things. So if you can apply it to all four explanations, go ahead and mention all four explanations. Secondly, when you're talking about validity, validity is a pointer. It's like known fact in psychology. Validity is a pointer that is like your the heart of the argument. Why? Because people first of all run away from validity. Why is that? Because it gets too detailed. Okay. Second pointer, when you do not have absolutely anything, then you run to validity. So you either run away from validity in order to prevent detail, or when you do not have anything, you run to validity. Okay, there's just high ground or low ground with validity. So when you are mentioning validity, make sure that you are, it's like you can evaluate on the right basis for each of the argument, because each argument has some sort of validity, some sort of invalidity. So that is your strength point, and also your focal point, strength and weakness point with validity. And the fact that you have talked about case study, this can fall into either longitudinal, or it could fall into generalizability. So that's okay, that's you mentioned that, so that's perfectly fine. Another thing that I would personally advise you to, when we were doing AS, okay, so our evaluation on the basis of reliability, validity, replicability, all of those things was actually rather strong. But when we are talking about A2, the evaluation, they will give you proper total marks for this as well. If it's well evaluated, they will give you marks for that. They will never look over anything. But just to make a strong it, just to make a strong foot point, at that point you're just like, okay, I got a foothold over here, that is to mention another debate. Okay, so always try to mention another debate, because that tells them, okay, this person has actually grown, they have taken a step forward, and they are aware. Okay, so when, and it is the easiest thing to do with that is you either mention reductionist or you mention nature versus nurture. Reductionist, why? Because you can evaluate on the basis of reductionist linking to other debates as well. So if you're saying the study is reductionist, you can also say it is reductionist because it is focusing just on nature and not nurture. You can say it is reductionist because it is focusing on free will and not determinism, that sort of a thing. So you all, it's just a cue, an advice. You don't have to do it. Okay, it's not like compulsory, it's not mandatory, but it is there, it is out there, that you, when you can, when you have the chance, grasp the opportunity to mention a debate. Is that clear?
Yeah.
um uh, did you say something? Because it was pretty muffled, so I couldn't hear you.
No, yeah, I understood.
Perfect. So as long as we're clear with this, we're gonna move ahead. So
Yeah, I had a question. So for evaluation, I mentioned for the validity like a strength and a weakness. Is it actually allowed to do that?
totally, definitely. When we talk about evaluation, that is both strengths and weaknesses. You cannot give all strengths. So that is actually a very strong point. We've said, if you, and even if you have used the same study to mention both your strength and weakness, then too it is fine. Then too, even if you say that cognitive was valid because this, however, it wasn't valid because this, then too it is a pointer. Then too you will get 2 marks for it, because they're different pointers. So totally. And let me just share the marking scheme of this with you, so you have an idea about the marking scheme as well. But that is, so this was the first one, the first question over here. Describe explanations of phobia. There are literally, exactly like you wrote them, right? So may describe the case. So this they can also just, they basically they're saying over here that you can also describe it over here again. This is your research details or your conceptual details, all of them given. They all over here, they said that you can summarize the case of little Hans, which you did. So this again, Leonardo as well, this is exactly like you did it, so this totally makes sense. Moving ahead with the named issue, so when you talk about named issue, so you gotta evaluate all of them on the basis of named issue. I know they've given you a summary of it, but you gotta, that is the way to do it. Then over here as well, look at this marking scheme. They are also going with the debate, nature versus nurture, application to everyday life. Then they're coming to holistic reductionist. Look, they are evaluating mostly on the basis of your debates. Okay, even though that doesn't mean that you cannot evaluate on the other pointers, because obviously that's easier, that's more efficient. But at the same time, it's better to give the outlook that you can evaluate on the basis of nature versus nurture or reductionism or any of the other debates. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Perfect. So we are done with that, and I am just going to, okay, yeah, I'm not sharing anymore. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm just going to start with impulse control disorders. I'm gonna share my screen and we can start with that. We are doing abnormality. Okay, yeah, you had your mid yesterday. How was your mid?
The marks,
You
I
got the
would
mark?
rather not. No, no, I didn't get the marks. It was a whole paper, like
Uh-huh.
complete separate paper 3, paper 4, but I kind of blacked out last minute,
Okay, that's okay. And
so it didn't go well.
that's totally fine. Look, this, I know a lot of people who are so amazing with their content and with their, just evaluation skills and everything, but they do blank out. So that just means that you are underestimating yourself. Do not do that. Okay. Always don't overestimate yourself either, but just stay on a moderate ground where you believe that you know it. Okay. So when you believe that you know it, at the end of it, you just lead there and you're like, okay, yeah, I know this. So it just it's like supporting yourself with the belief that you know it. So that sort of a thing, like how they believe that they were scared of dogs, that sort of a thing. So exactly like that, you just have to believe that I know it. And even when you do not know it, when you just have that strong focal point with yourself, with your belief that you know it, just have that strong focal point with yourself, which always helps. Did you like leave anything?
No, I tried to attempt each and every answer, even if I wrote like little bit. I tried to attempt it.
Man, that's exactly what matters. That's amazing. That is what will help you in the long run. So always just do not leave it. I remember I had this Islamiyat paper once. Okay, honestly, it wasn't that I did not know it, but that teacher was, the teacher I had, she used to, she was more of a quantity over quality sort of a person. So when you do not have content, just repeat whatever you're writing. Honestly, that's what I did. And it's just that day, I just learned this one thing, that you, even if you do not know it, just write something or the other. I suck at math. Okay, I'm really bad at math. Okay, so I just write numbers. I write formulas, and I just put numbers in that formulas. The answer is like, I never get answers right, but I still get at least like 2 to 3 marks out of, like, if it's like a 7 mark question, I'm like 2 to 3. At least I passed them. So that sort of a thing. I'm not saying aim for passing, but at the same time, just never leave something blank. Even if you're not sure about it, give it your best shot. Write what you can. Okay. So once, now that we're done with the motivational part of it, I'm pretty sure it'll go well. Don't worry about it. And getting back to our impulse control disorders or non-substance addictive disorders. By the name of it, we can see that you are having, it's like you are, it is something to do with your impulses, it is something to do with control of your impulses. And it just shows that it's more about people having trouble controlling their impulses. Okay, their impulses are like, how they want to do certain thing, and they have issues in controlling that. So impulses can be their urges, their instincts, their compulsion, their need, their itch. Okay, all sorts of things they're having a difficulty controlling that. So that's your first part of it. And then when they say non-substance addictive disorder, that is that there is no substance involved when you talk about drugs or alcohol or cocaine. Okay, any of those things, that is more related towards substance. Those are substances, those are like chemical um, transmitters. Okay, but over here no substance is involved, but there is some sort of addiction. Okay, so even though, so it could be so anything else rather than a substance. So it could be an addiction to gambling. Okay, now it's not gambling is not a substance. Okay, but it is an addiction. It could be an addiction to um, speeding. Okay, so it is not involving a substance, but people speed even when they are stuck in traffic. That's how accidents happen. There's an addiction, there's this drive, there's this adrenaline rush that you get, that counts as an addiction as well. Okay, so that is our general idea as to what these things are. So for the majority of time, most of us are able to resist inappropriate impulses. However, impulse control and non-substance addictive disorders, however, involve difficulty in self-regulation or self-control. So basically we will look at, the first thing we're going to look at is the definition. So you basically need to match all of these. Like, this is the procedure which will actually make you understand that, okay, you have an impulse control disorder, you are a patient of ICD. Okay, so these definitions are basically showing us that, what will, first they're showing us what it means. Second, like, mainly they're showing us what it means. Mainly they're telling us what an impulse control or a non-substance addictive disorder really means. And the second thing they're showing us is stages, how it's going to be in stages. Okay, so they've said that Griffiths, according to Griffiths, there is now a growing acceptance that a number of behaviors can be defined as addictions, not just those that involve taking drugs. So he is saying that it is not just drugs or cigarettes or tobacco that can be defined as an addiction. There are more things that can be defined as addictions. Um, these commonly include gambling, sex, exercise, video game playing, and internet use. So we have social media addiction as well. Most of us do. We don't even realize it. The instinct to open Instagram during a meeting, that is social media addiction. Although these behaviors are quite different from one another, they share a number of common components which form a definition of addictive behaviors. So he basically defined these definitions, that according, when you have this sort of an addiction, this is what it will include. Okay, these are the things that it will include. Like I said, they're telling us what it means, and they're also telling us the stages. So he said that the first one is that salience. So the salience is basically when that activity just dominates over your life. Okay, dominates over your behavior, dominates over your feelings, dominates over your emotions, dominates over your daily routinely life. Okay, so they're saying over here, salience is when a particular activity takes over as the most important activity in a person's life. It may dominate their thinking, feeling, and behavior. They may be preoccupied with thoughts about cravings for the activity, which may mean that their behavior can become problematic. For example, a person who is addicted to gambling will always be thinking about the next time they can place a bet, and may jeopardize relationships and finances to satisfy this need. So if I say that I have social media addiction, so this will I would constantly, it would become the most important part of my life. I will literally put myself away from the society just so I can focus on that social media aspect that I have in my life. At the same time, I will always be thinking about it. My behavior, my actions will be um, molded based on that. So if I see something bad on the social media, I'm going to stay sad the whole thing, that sort of a thing. And at the same time, if I am in the middle of something, I'll constantly be thinking about that thing, and that will start affecting other parts of my life. So if I have social media addiction, while I'm studying, while I'm in school, I will constantly be thinking about that. So at some point I will just lose the interest to study, and that I will that will lead me to fail. Okay, so that's the first step towards impulse control disorder, towards non-substance addictive disorder. The second one is mood modification. So that is basically when you perform this activity, whatever this thing you're addicted with. So when you perform it, you have this buzz, okay, this high, when you just, you feel so serene and, just at peace, and you're just, it's like an escape for you. So most people have a lot of escapes now, and then they even say it that, this is my escape. Now that could be healthy, that could be unhealthy. Like, let's say people saying that, I've got an elder sister, okay. She wakes up in the morning, she goes for a run, okay. Then she comes back, she goes to work, then she goes to university right from work, okay. And then she goes for boxing. Right after boxing, she's got a 10-minute break, and then she has a CrossFit class. Then she comes back home, and then after dinner she does a walk, okay, however many kilometers that as she could. Now she thinks that because she is invested in all of this, and she's a psychologist, okay. Now she thinks that because she is invested in all of this, it is a rather healthy thing, because it is, at least it's fitness, it's not something bad. But at the same time, because it is so addictive to her, she knows that, okay, maybe it is not. So that is exactly what they're talking about here, that mood modification, it could be out of something good, it could be out of something bad, but that, getting that buzz and high and making that thing an escape for you, that's not very healthy, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So this is something that people have with cigarettes. The minute, like, especially in Ramadan, I can use this example with you, because you know what Ramadan is, okay. So especially in Ramadan, it's like people fast the whole day, they get done with their iftar, and then they're just out there smoking, because, oh my god, how did I stop for 14 hours, that sort of an impression. So that is your mood modification, where they run back to their escape, because that is what they think they really need and require, okay. So that is what they're talking about when they say mood modification, that thing, that addiction that you have, that creates a buzz, that creates a high for you, that creates happiness for you. Then we come to the third step of it, which is tolerance. So tolerance is mostly, like tolerance is applicable with drugs, that the more you do it, the more less of the, you know um, you need to do more amounts of it in order to get mood modified. Okay, so in order to have that buzz, in order to create that high, you have to do more of it, because now you are, let's say, just using an example of a cigarette, okay. So let's say when I started smoking, I needed just one, okay, and that would make me really good, that would modify my mood. Now that I'm doing it for, like, let's say 20 days, now I need two in a day. But now that I'm doing it for 2 months, I need three in a day, because I have developed that tolerance for it. Okay, so now it is becoming an addiction, because I have developed a tolerance for it. I know that I need high amounts of it in order to get my mood modified, in order to get that high, in order to get that buzz. Okay, that's your fourth step. So you basically need increased amounts of it. And then the last one is withdrawal. So once the person knows that, okay, I'm addicted, so they try to stop it, okay. Or, like, people just, have this thing that, that they gotta stop it now. So that actually stopping something might not, if I'm like, I gotta stop drinking water, that might not really, affect me in any way. Maybe physically, yes, but not emotionally, okay. But when you talk about withdrawal in this sense, when you talk about withdrawal from an addiction, then that really revolves around the fact that, you would have unpleasant feelings, you're not very happy about the withdrawal. So, you when the behavior is stopped, or it is reduced, it actually, you're just hurt. Okay, you're just like, I can't do this. So, that's like a giving up sort of a feeling. So those are the four stages of impulse control disorder, the four definitions of impulse control disorders, according to Griffiths. Is that clear?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
audible.
that's, yeah, I'm going ahead, and then it's good. It's gonna be, I'm not even looking at the book right now. Yeah, okay. Then we've got two more, so that's six total. So once you have withdrawal, then you've got conflict. So conflict is basically, once you are withdrawing from that activity, that addiction, you start having conflicts with other things in your life. So basically, because you are so addicted, you are invested in that thing for a very long time. Okay, but now that you're withdrawing from it, you are already annoyed, you are frustrated. Okay, you have so much internal conflict, your brain is not working, you have no high, you have no escape. So obviously that affects everything else in your life. That affects your work, that affects your personal relationships, that affects your friendships, all sorts of things. Okay, so that affects your social activity. So you might just become a very a very boring person. Someone who might be very jolly might just become a very boring person. So there's people who are very jolly, they get into this addiction of a certain thing, let's say gambling over here. They get into that. Once they have to withdraw from it, then leads to that conflict where they just, they're so frustrated, they are so in conflict within themselves that they cannot even um, properly be with other people, or be within a society. They do not know how to handle that pressure anymore, because they're always on a buzz and a high. And then the last thing comes, where even when you have stopped it, even when you have reduced it, there is always chances of relapse, because it is something that is so integral to you will always sort of run back to it. So people have addictions to a person as well. You can have addiction to a person. So no matter how much they hurt you, and you know that that person is not good for you, and you know that they will treat you awfully, but because you are addicted to it, that is also a relapse, going back to the cycle and going back to that person, going back to the cycle and going back to that addiction. Okay, so that can happen, even it can happen in weeks, it can happen in months, but also in years. It is always very possible to have a relapse. So are we clear with the stages over here, the definitions?
Yeah.
Perfect. Whenever we talk about ICD, they always give us a question. You know how it was like evaluate the explanations of phobia? So it is always evaluate the definitions, the measures, and types. That is the three they all, I got that. I think, yeah, I got that. When I gave my exam, that was the question. It was evaluate the measures, evaluate the definitions, the types, and the measures for ICD. And that was the first time they actually gave something like that. So before that, it was mostly explanations, treatments. So I was sitting with the mindset that, oh my god, it's going to be explanations and treatments, and I know all of that. The minute I read the question and it said definitions, the whole grade, everybody was shook because of that. I think the threshold fell by like 2 points because of that particular question. So everybody was like, okay, when they said definitions, types, and measures, what do we even write? Even if we write this is not enough, for an 8 mark or a 10 marker. How do we evaluate this? So what I did was, I know rookie mistake, but I wrote explanations as well. I was like, no, I'm not going to risk it. There's no negative marking. I'm going to write whatever I can. That obviously did not follow through, in the sense that I had very less time for my last question. But then obviously, alhamdulillah, in the end it was all okay. But that's what I did. But keep that in mind, that they can ask you about definition, types, and measures as well. So now they're moving on to the types. They've given us two types, so three types over here, three types of ICD, and three types of non-substance addictive disorder. The first one is kleptomania. Kleptomania is when you don't need something but you keep stealing something. So let's say you're in a grocery store, you do not need absolutely anything. Okay, you do not need that thing. Let's say I do work out. So yeah, let's say I do not like use hair color or whatever it's called, extensions, what I don't know, I don't know. So whatever they're called, so I yeah, highlights, I think they're called yeah. So I don't do, I don't paint my hair, color my hair, whatever it's called, dye my hair. There you go, I found the word. So let's say I don't dye my hair. I do not need a hair dye, but I go to a grocery store and I pick the hair dryer and I steal it, and I just come back and I just keep it away, like that sort of a thing. So that is your instinct, your uncontrollable instinct to steal. Okay, so not even because of their monetary value. Now they could have like zero, like no value at all. Okay, like a hair dye does not have value at all. So if it's like gold, you can say, okay, yeah, that's stealing. But then kleptomania is, you do not need that thing. Okay, it has no monetary value, and you just steal it. You're just so used to stealing, because you feel that your mood is modified after that buzz. Okay, that gratification after. That is one reason. Then they go ahead and they explain us about pyromania. So pyromania is, let me read it from the book. Pyromania, as described by Burton, is also an impulse control disorder. It is characterized by the impulse of starting fires. The diagnosis of this disorder requires that individuals have deliberately and intentionally set fires on more occasions than one. Like kleptomania, individuals with pyromania feel tense or emotionally charged after the act, and the act and relief and pleasure when setting a fire and participating in the aftermath. Those with pyromania are fascinated with fire in situational contexts such as accelerants, um, People with pyromania cannot resist the impulse to start fires, set off false fire alarms, or watch explosions of fires burning. It may even lead them to seek employment or voluntary work as firefighters. Some individuals with pyromania are indifferent to the destructive consequences of fire on people and property, though many report feeling severe distress after starting fires. So pyromania are people who have this impulse to start fires. I know it sounds so weird, okay, and out of context, but it is a thing, okay. So they feel their mood modified, they feel that gratification, that adrenaline, that buzz after they have started a fire. So they have mentioned two things to us here, okay. They've two more two actually three things. So the first one is that they are diagnosed when they have they have intentionally caused a fire. So they have for nothing, no personal gain, they have intentionally just gone somewhere and then just light something on fire. That's how their diagnosis actually take place. That if they have done this, then yes, they are pyromanics, okay. And then looking at the second thing, which is they are telling us that these it's not just setting fires, but anything related to fires will cause that buzz with them. So looking at fires, looking at explosions, looking at gasolines, okay, all sorts of things related to fires as well, all of that will cause them to just feel this buzz, okay, feel that feel like feel happy, okay, feel euphoric. So that's another thing. And the third thing they've mentioned over here, it depends on your severity, okay. So it is actually based upon your severity. If your pyromania is severe, that means that you will not care about how the fire is harming other people. So even if you will, but then otherwise you might suffer from severe distress. At that moment, yes, you are having gratification, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, yeah, I feel so at peace. But later you might, if there's destruction, then you might feel bad about it. That's like less severity. But then there is more severity, which means that they won't even feel bad about it, they won't even consider it, okay. So that's three things that they have summarized with us over here. And the last one is that you have a gambling disorder. So the first two, one was more about non-substance addictive disorder, and even impulse control, they're like all typically related, but over here this is more about your impulses rather than an addictive disorder. But yeah, okay. So they are telling us that you have this continuous want to gamble, okay. So this is an example they used before as well. You just want that reward, you want that buzz, and that activity basically takes over your life. Even if you are having financial losses, you are never winning, you are still gambling. So yeah, I mean, that has a very strong and very strong impact, very negatively strong impact on everything you do then. um are we clear with the types?
Yeah, it's pretty understandable.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so we come to CASAS. So that's kleptomania symptom assessment scale. That's our measure. So diagnosis can be, this is a self-report. Okay, diagnosis of these disorders can be made with a clinician, I guess, yeah, using an appropriate self-report measure. One such measure for the diagnosis as kleptomania is the blah blah CASAS. Okay, this is an 11-item self-rated scale which measures impulses, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors related to stealing. The individual takes the assessment is asked to consider this in relation to the past 7 days. Each item is rated on a point-based scale, typically 0 to 4 or 0 to 5, with the higher scores reflecting the greatest severity and duration of symptoms. So basically, again three things. Okay, first, that it's an 11-item scale. Second, it is basically on the basis of the last 7 days. So if you are taking this measure, it has to be on the basis of last 7 days only. And the third one is that they have told us that it has a scale of 0 to 4 or 0 to 5, and it measures both duration and severity. So if they've given us an example over here, so basically they said that if you had the urge to steal during past week, on average, how strong were your urges? So you know how strong, so that you have to look at it in the basis of both duration and severity. Now over here they've specifically mentioned how strong. So, and they've also mentioned past week. So they've given you both duration and they've mentioned severity as well. So you just have to look at both things before you mark this. And there's just 11 questions. So again, they've given us a small evaluation here. I'm gonna wait for the azan to get done. Okay, yeah. So they've given us a small evaluation here. Okay, they've talked about retest reliability and they've talked about concurrent validity and then they've given us two weaknesses, which is response bias, and then the data is very limited. So when you talk about retest reliability, that means that you can take the test again and again. Okay, you can take it twice and then test it differently, or you could make evaluate it on the basis of two researchers. Okay, that's more about retest reliability. And concurrent is basically when you can concurrent validity is that you have a good um, comparable basis for it. You can compare it with another scale. So they've said over here it also has compared with other validated tools such as the global assessment of functioning scale and have found concurrent validity. So you basically look at, even when you're evaluating research paper, so you look at a research paper on the same topic that has been done before, and then based on that you say, okay, you have also covered all the pointers, so you have good concurrent validity. So based on something that has happened in the past already, something that already exists, you just evaluate the new thing. And you said that now they're saying that it has response bias. Okay, and another thing they're saying is that you they said that it provides quantitative data which makes it easy to compare. So that can be a strength and weakness that it makes it easy to compare, because obviously it's like it's standardized and everything, and it's objective mainly. But then you can also say that that means it's very limited as well, it's not subjective. Are we clear till here?
Yeah.
Okay. Issues and debates as well that talked about relevant to everyday life. Okay, so case as is relevant to everyday life. You can, give this to anyone and they can fill it out. It's just 11 pointer, it's standardized. Okay, that sort of a thing. So that is just a small evaluation that they've given us. I wouldn't want to start causes right now because then it's like gonna break the momentum. I would rather just do it in one go. Do you agree with me, or do you think we should just start it right now?
No, I find it easier to do it at once.
Yeah, so you're saying that it would be rather easier if you do it at once, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna start this on Thursday. Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about was on for the Ramadan timing. So inshallah, after next 10 days, we're going to be following that. So next week, let's say next. I'm so confused with the calendar. Honestly, today is the 14th. 23rd is the first rosa, or 24th? I think 24th, right?
23rd, 24th, around that time.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it's one
So
day early in UAE.
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, okay, yeah. So it's I'm gonna I so next week we're just gonna keep it 21st and 23rd, like 21st of March and 23rd of March. That's Tuesday and Thursday. Following that week, we're gonna follow the Ramadan schedule, which is Friday and Saturday around 2 p.m. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great.
And also after Ramadan, before like when the board season, when the board exams start, I
Mhm.
instead, are you okay with like doing back-to-back classes for like 3 days or 2 days?
Yeah, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. No issues. We just gotta communicate beforehand and share our
Yeah,
slots
right
and
now I'm
everything.
trying to like create a schedule according to my other exams.
Yeah, totally. We're gonna switch it up. Don't worry about that.
So like I can like not this week, I will not do the classes, but then this two classes I'll do it like together in the next week.
So,
Something like that.
so are you saying that from next week only we should start by like Friday, Saturday?
Not next week, like for during after Ramadan. This is like
Okay,
way
after
into the
Ramadan.
future.
Yeah, so that's fine too. Honest, I mean that's okay. Like you're saying, we shouldn't just jump back to Tuesday, Thursday then.
I'm fine with jumping back to Tuesday and Thursday, but I just want to like
You would
have
rather
more
prefer it that way.
classes together rather than doing having it twice a week.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. So that's totally fine by me. As far as it's like, if it's like more than two classes, then that's something you're gonna have to communicate with her. Other than that, if it's like two classes, if we do Friday, Saturday for Ramadan, then we can, follow through on Friday, Saturday, or we can do like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. So that's totally fine by me. We'll communicate that once we're done with Ramadan at least.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, you can leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.